collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up on this week's programme, we discuss the ongoing saga of politically exposed persons and non-performing loans. It all ties in with the ethics at our Parliament.
What are the connections between the politicians and the bankers? And they want to hide this aspect of the situation.
And we'll discuss the indiscriminate felling of mature trees across the island.
Why they don't get the measures they need to protect the old trees, which is, some of them is 500, 700, 800 years, and this is a crime. This is strict, very strict protective, and they cut them so easily without thinking.
Our political parties earlier this week decided that they would set up an ad hoc committee to look into the controversial list of politically exposed persons, they're known as PEPs, who had bad debts. Now, this is a story that's been going on since, I think, the first data was collected way back in 2015, but it certainly took on a new life with the former governor of the central bank telling MPs back in 2018 that she'd stopped looking into the loans because she was frightened when police confiscated her computer at the behest of an MP who complained his data had been breached. It's been going on and on since then. So what is this new ad hoc committee going to do? Well, joining us on this week's programme is the President of the Green Party, MP George Perdikis. George, can you just outline for us what the idea is behind having an ad hoc committee? Because I thought already one of the committees in the House had been supposed to be looking at this.
Yes, that's correct. Actually, it was the committee under the presidency of Mr. Koulias, the so-called Committee of Public Spending Control, who was supposed to, actually Mr. Silouris, the President of the Parliament, sent all the informations he had, the so-called Yorkakis list, to this committee in order to deal with them. But he asked this committee to ask from the government of the central bank to deal with issue. So after many discussions, the majority of the committee asked the president of the committee, Mr. Koulias, to send a letter to the governor of the central bank, asking him to bring this list, the so-called Yorkakis list, to the parliament. But the president of the committee, Mr. Koulias, didn't do that. He doesn't want to do that. So I just after this, the coronavirus crisis, when the parliament started to work again, I asked from the parliament to appoint an ad hoc committee of this committee, of Koulias committee, under the presidency of Ms. Irini Haralambous, a small committee of members of the parliament, of this committee, the committee of
It's the watchdog committee, isn't it?
Yes, but the leaders of the parties didn't want to do that. They decided eventually to create the so-called special committee to appoint their own members of the parliament and to control this committee. So what they are going to do is to appoint a committee. Today, Friday, they are going early in the morning, they are going to discuss in the level of the committee of the leaders of the parties to discuss the terms of and the members of these special committees, not anymore ad hoc committees, we must call it special committee, and what it's going to do. I mean, till now, till the decision of the Parliament, we don't know exactly what it's going to do, because there is a discussion about that. Some leaders of the party saying that we want to discuss all the aspects of this issue of NPLs, not only the so-called Yorgakis list about the elements and the informations the ex-government of the central bank gathered, but all the informations. And in this case, in such a case, this will take maybe years, months and years, and we will not have any information. And the crucial issue is when is going to publish all these informations. My personal proposal is to publish these informations as soon as possible, maybe in a few weeks. It's important for us to have transparency, to have eventually to leave the people to know, to leave the public to know what has happened so many years after the incident, after the economical destruction.
Well, are the other members of Parliament and the people who are trying to, if you like, stymie the work of the Watchdog Committee or the mini-committee of the Watchdog Committee, I mean, are they aware that all these actions actually cause people to think, what are they hiding? Who is on this list? Now, I understand, but correct me if I'm wrong, that on the Yorgakis list there were some 37 MPs, 19 owed the bank a total of £51.2 million, and 13 of those had non-performing loans totalling £35.3 million. So why are we not finding out why these people are still members of Parliament voting on laws which will affect them? That surely is a conflict of interest.
That's a crucial issue. I mean, it's not illegal to have even a member of the Parliament to have an NPL loan. I mean, but what has happened is you have to declare that. You have to speak to the people and say, okay, I'm taking decisions about these issues and I have personal interest about this issue. And that's the only issue, after all. But I think that what they don't want to be known to the people is what actually we are doing and what are the relations between the political personalities with the banks, and what actually was what are the connections between the politicians and the bankers. And they want to hide this aspect of the situation. But as you said, so many informations are spread all over the country, and everybody they know so many informations and sayings. So what's so important not to publish this list after all? I don't know why there's all these fightings and all these disagreements, really.
Well, it does mean that a lot of people, as I say, are beginning to wonder what on earth is going on. Let me ask you something else about this, because I think that the other thing that came up recently was this code of ethics. Now, that was put forward with how many pages on the President of the House's recommendations? And I think that you're all looking now, are you not, at trying to simplify it. I mean, this is something that Greco, the group of states against corruption, said we should do a long time ago. So could this code of ethics somehow also include some of the issues that have been brought up with the non-performing loans and politically exposed persons, and indeed with MPs and politically exposed persons, ministers and so on, declaring their income and such?
Exactly. This is one of the main and important part of this code, under, of course, the pressure, as you mentioned, of Greco committee. And unfortunately, what I'm saying all these days in many interviews, we have to admit that in Cyprus, the parliamentarians that does not have the habit, the custom, to declare their personal profit or personal connection with the subjects they have under their voting or under their control. And this will be actually a great change if we manage, after all, to create such a custom, such a habit, the politicians to declare, to make public what are the connections. It's not a crime to have connection. It's not a crime to have personal interest, but it's a crime not to get it if you don't declare it. And I think that this is the connection between what we are talking about, your gadgets list, and the principal issue of the need of declaration of the personal interest.
Right, well, I think that the chairman of the House Ethics Committee, is that Zacharias Zachariou, has said that he's hoping that he can make a much smaller, user-friendly and understandable code by the end of August or beginning of September. Do you think that's realistic?
If there is a political will for that, what I'm afraid is that the president of the parliament, of the House, Mr. Silouris, believes that this is a kind of his political deal or something. He has a political, personal connection with this proposal, and I'm not sure that he will eventually permit to the parliamentary committee to achieve what our president, Mr. Zachariou, declared that is our goal. I fully support this goal to have a smaller and more easy to understand code. And this is more practical and more easy to be implemented.
Right, but it seems that the President of the House doesn't perhaps want his original 155 pages condensed into something that's more workable, and yet again he's the one who was backing Zacharias Koulias when it came to the problems with the PEPs and the central bank.
Yes, there is a personal connection between the two aspects of the same story, and unfortunately the strong role of the President of the House is there and is not always positive. And this is happening to these two cases.
What goes on next, George? You said that the parties are meeting. They will presumably hand-pick people from their own parties to sit on this special committee. And then what? Are they going to work through August and try and get this done? Or are they all going to go on holiday and come back and say, oh, well, we've got to discuss this at next year's Parliament after elections and so on?
Well, this is... it's a question. It's a very, very important question. It's on 1 million question. We will see. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know whether they really are the willing of the parties. It seems they don't want to expose the people that they are in this. Their names are in this list, the so-called gadgets list.
And yet, if they're doing nothing illegal, then there isn't a problem, surely, is there?
Yes, we are not talking about illegal acts. We're not talking about any illegal. It's rather a moral political issue, and in these kind of things we don't have tradition, and we are not so. We don't have good results as a community, as a society, and as a political personality.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck when the Parliament meets today to see how it's going to all work out. We'll follow it with interest because I do think that as long as some of these stories carry on rolling with the can being kicked down the road, people lose confidence in their representatives.
If there is any confidence anymore, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, goodness me. All right, well...
There's left anymore.
Well, certainly we hope there is, George. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, and we'll follow the story with interest. Thank you. That is George Petrovikis, the president of the Green Party and one of our MPs.
Listen online to the Cyprus News Digest on YouTube or at cyprusmail.libsyn.com. The latest program is uploaded every Friday, and if you missed one, you can catch up there.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the fourth series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
It seems not a day goes by without posts on Facebook about trees in Cyprus being cut down. Now, this is very strange because we've got organisations in all our big towns saying we're going to plant 100,000 trees, 300,000 trees, and yet on a daily basis we see pictures of mature trees having been literally cut down at ground level. Joining us to discuss this very serious issue for a place with the climate of Cyprus is the Secretary of the Green Party in Paphos, Andreas Evlavis. Andreas, you're very much out and about in the Paphos area, and it does seem to me that an awful lot of these tree cuttings take place in Paphos. Why?
Unfortunately, when you start to say something, you say about the 300,000, 200,000, 100,000, they start to plant the whole Cyprus. So they have to give answer, the authorities, why they don't get the measures they need to protect the old trees, which is, some of them is 500, 700, 800 years, and this is a crime. This is strict, very strict protective, and they cut them so easily without thinking ways to save these trees. And this happens every day around Paphos, but unfortunately it's around Cyprus. It's not only Paphos.
No, I know it's not. But Andreas, who is cutting the trees? Because I thought that you had to have a written permit from the Department of Forests if you wanted to cut down a mature tree.
Mostly is developers. They have to make big buildings, and they need a lot of space. But the Forest Department is the last one who have a word, which is wrong. And when they apply to build something, they should make on their plans the trees that are on the plots, not just the plans of the buildings. So mostly from the officers, they give a license, they sign the papers without go themselves to see the area, to see how many trees there are in the plots, around the plots, how many they should save. So this is the most important, to go yourself there before you put your signature. This is the most important.
Can we talk about the actual process? Let's say I'm a developer and I've bought a piece of land and it has some trees on it. When I put in my plans for the building I want to build, who does it go to first, And surely I'm also obliged to talk about the trees and carry out an environmental impact assessment.
Okay, the architects, they should put on their plans the trees that are on the plots. When they bring this to the planning department to apply for a license, they should go there, the planning department, to see what is these trees, how big, how old, is this productive or is not productive? Because if it is the small ones, they don't need even license. But if it's 40 centimeter square, this they need a license. So, the first of all is to show if there are any trees on their plans. So it's easy for the planning department to go there to see, and of course they should ask the forest department as well before they make everything ready. Because when we ask the forest department, okay, you give a license? Yes. Why? Because they have progress. This is the main answer we have every day. And when we go there, actually, yesterday or today I've been there for some trees I already post today, and Saturday, it was stupid, it was silly, it was crazy to see one line on the edge of the road which is not bother the progress. What they should do is just to make one way the road. It is next to the cemetery, it's not a busy road. So if they be there, I'm sure they change their mind. Anyway, today I hope the forest department was going there to see, to do something to save at least the rest of the trees.
Right, I've seen cases where people are clearing a spot for a car park, for example, and they're cutting down trees in the middle that might take up 2 parking spaces or something. Surely there must be some law in place about what can and cannot be cleared. It doesn't seem to me that there's any transparency about how these things happen.
I'm sorry, but there are enough laws. There are enough. The problem is that every department should be more responsible before give any license to go themselves to see. Otherwise, if we make everything through computers, show from your computer the area, and you see, okay, it's nice the plans, and you sign. This is not solution. The solution is to leave your office, go to the area, and most important for me, and they should think about it, is to mark all the trees in the town. It's easy. With the technical things we have now, it's very easy to mark all the trees. Because in Bafos we have very old trees, and there are very rare trees. It's not just old. And when they cut these, who's going to wait 400 or 500 years to grow up these trees?
So what's the answer, Andreas? I mean, I know that you're pressurising various departments, but it looks to me as if involved in all of this are the municipalities, the district office, the planning department of the municipality, the government planning department, and, as you rightly said, also the forestry department.
The most responsible is the forest department, the planning department, and the mayor department of planning. So it's not difficult if they cooperate together, but the right time and all themselves there, not through the computers. That's a problem, because it's different. Even if they say to you, there are 10 trees on my plot, you think, okay, if there are 10 trees on the plot, I signed to cut them. But if you go there and you see it's on the edge of it's not bothered, actually makes your progress more valuable if you have these big trees. So you change your mind. But it's easy to have clean everything to make your progress, for the machines to go there, the concrete, all these workers, is easier for them to have a clean area to work. But it's very sad.
It is indeed very sad.
So many trees, cutting for nothing. For me, this is crime, to cut these all protected trees without try to save. Because if they really want to save, they find a way. We see in other countries how many examples we have. How many countries every Cypriot travel alone. They respect the trees. In Cyprus, we don't respect at all.
Which is very silly because, as I said at the beginning, considering the climate we've got, trees are a way of cooling things in our hot summers. And, of course, not only that, good for the environment in terms of absorbing carbon dioxide and all the rest of it. Andreas, I wish you luck with your continuing battle to get people to respect their environment and the trees, and we'll wait to see what's happening with the ones that have escaped so far in Paphos. The very best of luck with your campaign.
Thank you very much, but we need the support of the people. We don't expect for the government, for the departments, but the people, they have to wake up from their chairs, from the computer, from Facebook, to demonstrate, to do something. It's not just to discuss, it's need action.
Yeah, well, it would help as well, of course, if a lot of the government people involved also got up off their chairs and actually got out there and did the job. Thank you for joining me.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
That is Andreas Evlavis, who is the Secretary of the Green Party in Paphos, talking there about the ongoing destruction of our environment, particularly in urban areas, to build more blocks of flats, more concrete, more roads, and old ancient trees are being cut down to make way for it. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.